am the director of the Maryland Out of School Time Network, which also is the backbone organization for the Maryland Coalition for Community Schools. And I'm gonna pass it to Jaden.
Good afternoon. I'm Jaden Ferris. I come from Anne Arundel County, and I'm the student member of Pillar 4. I'll pass to Kara.
Good afternoon. I'm Kara Burhans. I'm the Strategic Initiatives Coordinator for Washington County Public Schools, which also includes the Blueprint Coordination.
Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself too?
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Amstutz, the Operations and Policy Director at the AIB. And today, trying to make sure that we're streaming live. So welcome to everybody on the stream. I think we just got you up there. But yep, thanks for being here.
I just want to take this opportunity before we delve into our agenda to let everybody know that we do have more committee members than what is present today. We've had several family emergencies that have arisen in the past few days, and we send our prayers and best wishes out to them. But we are a strong group, and we look forward to working today through our agenda. Ellie, can you go ahead and start with our agenda?
Sure, I'm gonna drop it into the chat just so that I know that won't help the folks on the, I guess I could share screen too, to make, if that's what we wanna go ahead and, oh, nope, I cannot share screen. So I
can, let me turn it on. Let me give you that.
Okay. Let's see if it works now. Yay. All right. So we have this nice rolling agenda model here. So I think we just did all our introductions, and since folks are on the live stream, we don't have other introductions and other ways to capture people's names. And so we're going to start, actually this goes a little bit back to Rachel, but we're going to start with some updates from the AIB, just so that we're all on the same page as to where things are happening right now.
Absolutely. So on behalf of Rachel Heiss, our executive director, I bring greetings. She and our team, we've been working round the clock to get this draft comprehensive plan out, and we do expect it to be out today. So today is dwindling in terms of the working hours, but we're committed to getting it out for today. So we will be releasing a draft plan part 1, and it will include the Excel graphics that you've gotten used to seeing that have the implementation guidelines as a graphic. And then we'll also be including those as a download in Excel that many of the districts have been asking for, so that, and even our advisory committee, so that we can be writing in the documents. So that is where we are. There'll be a piece out today. And then next week, we are still working with MSDE on the criteria for success and what that looks like, so that we can expect to have hopefully next week, definitely before the November 10th hearing. And then that leads us to the November 10th hearing. We do have a public hearing scheduled. We will be getting more information out to everybody about the timing and the sign up and all of that. But basically, we anticipate that it will occur in 2 parts. There will be a part for like all of the agencies involved in the afternoon around 1 o'clock. And then in like the 5 o'clock range or even early evening range, the public will be able to sign up also to provide input and thoughts about the plan. So we would encourage you to reach out to your networks to be able to spread the word, let them know once the plan is released. We will be emailing everybody on our email list, and we'll be putting it on our website and tweeting it out and getting it out in all of our avenues. But the more people who can spread it through their channels, the better chance we have to reach more and more people. There will be a feedback process that if you want to submit feedback, you can submit written feedback as well, and or speak at the public hearing, which will all be virtual. And then I think the other thing that we talked about was the consortium. And so I had a great talk yesterday with Jen Clutterback at the consortium and just kind of updating on their processes and how we can be in touch. And they're definitely very eager to keep a line of communication open with the advisory committee and with the AIB, our members and staff as well. So if you're interested in seeing their meetings, they also have been recorded and are available on that link there, the underlined blue consortium link that'll take you to their webpage and all of their meetings. So they have 4 subcommittees that are beginning work. Some of them have already started, some of them are starting soon. The framework group met today, and then there's a data group that has also begun meeting, and then there are 2 other groups that are getting off the ground pretty soon, but all of that information can be found on their website. Did I get all the updates?
I think so.
Did I stick to my time limit too?
We're just a few minutes over, but we started a little late, so we're
Okay,
good.
good deal.
Rachel, if you have a chance, would you drop the website? Is that the link here? Is that to their website?
You got it. That's it.
Perfect. All right. Excellent. And these minutes are will be available and continue to be available on the AIB website, correct? Our rolling minutes.
If
that we're
you
taking
want
notes
them to be,
to?
yes, we
Okay.
can. They're not there yet, but we can put them up there today.
Thank you. Great. So that if folks want to go back and take a look at these notes or click on some of these links there, welcome to. So our next topic is just sort of a little bit of us taking a reflection back to our very first advisory committee meeting. During that meeting, we raised several concerns, issues, topics that we want to hold up as being particularly focus areas. We wanted to take a few minutes here to add any additional concerns, topics, ideas, or if people wanted to elaborate on or connect to. I could pull up the prior meeting minutes if you think that's a good idea, and share them as well, or we can just sort of open the floor. We don't have all the committee members here, so there may be folks who would want to raise something that is separate, but these are kind of the things that we want to take as focus areas for the advisory committee.
I think we need to include, there are 2 things I know that were discussed that aren't listed today. The first is the EL population and meeting the needs of the EL students within our school systems, as well as student voice and its inclusion and throughout the process of AIB in general, making sure that we're hearing from the population that a lot of these things will be impacting. So making sure that we include those as topics as well.
Jaden or Kara, are there other things that you wanted to make sure got added here as far as our sort of foci and hot topics?
At the moment, no. I definitely echo what Chandra said about the student voice piece.
That is great, because we are going to dive more into that specifically in this meeting before we wrap up.
Excellent.
Do we want to review those prior meetings? We have about 3 minutes for this topic, and just so I can just click on them and pull them up and just see if there's things that pop out from those discussion on pillar topics. Because the members who are watching may or may not have seen the minutes from the prior meeting and some of the topics that were discussed. So we talked about the quality of implementation of community schools, needing scaffolding and structures, being proactive in shaping community school rollout. We were interested in the implementation schedule. We wanted to look at the requirements for community school coordinators. Kind of switching gears, we talked about implementing screeners and services that meet standards and expectations of the law. We want to know more about the general funding formula and how all of these different pieces of the funding formula work together. We talked about the EL population here. We talked about the interconnectedness of all the pillars, and that is something that we want to continue to explore with the other advisory groups. We talked about, again, and this crosses over, how do we incentivize teachers to remain in special education? Just the general concern over finding and keeping personnel across all the issues that we are talking about was definitely raised. We talked about access for referrals to health providers, strategies related to the concentration of poverty grants, how they're spent, the additional dollars are used. And when we are working, it's important to know who's involved and what is involved, and considering bias and avoid mass labeling of students. I think that's, again, you know, when the Kerwin Commission started working on Work Group 4, it was at risk and they changed it to at promise. We have to have an asset-based approach with the work that we're doing with students. And then the last bullet, the importance of student voice. So those are things that we're going to be delving into higher. We will definitely think that our upcoming meetings may need to be, you know, may need to be a little longer. We're just sort of getting our footing right now in these meetings in order to really dive deeper into these discussions. So those are our big areas. We welcome input from the broader audience on how what other hot topics we should be including in those discussions and questions and analyses. I'm going to go back. Let's see if I click that out, what happens. Oops, I lost the agenda. I'll bring it back up. It's always fun, technology. Okay, there it is again. And then I increase the view. And then I think our next topic area is about the feedback process around the implementation plan and the criteria of success and blueprint milestones. I think this is an area of discussion for us. And hope all members will kind of weigh in here. We really want to know, so the plan gets released today. Woohoo! Right? This is the moment everybody's been waiting for. How do we as an advisory committee delve into this plan and really get feedback from a broad group of stakeholders? And how do we connect that to the criteria for success and blueprint milestones that have been, there's been some draft of that released, but more to come. So ideas from the advisory group on what our process as an advisory board should be and collecting this feedback. And I'm going to take notes.
Well, I think I know one of the last things that we talked about in our last meeting, and I mentioned it earlier, was student voice. So really connecting with Jaden and others in the committee to think of ways that we can get that feedback from students across the state, and a great cross section of students as well. So we're not looking at one county, we're not looking at one level, we're looking a cross section of students to represent. So Jaden, do you have any ideas of things that you would be thinking about when considering that?
So kind of the first thing that came to mind was maybe like I don't know, a panel of students, or like, I don't know, a forum of students across the state. I know MSDE does a lot of roundtables with stakeholders. I don't know if that seems like a good idea, or something that seems feasible.
Well, again, right now we're in the idea generation mode.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great starting point. I think it's an opportunity for us to hear from a number of people. I guess my question would be, we have to consider how we're going to connect with those people to make the panel. So who will we go to get the cross representation of students to be on the panel or to be participating in some kind of forum? So we have to consider how we would go about, identifying the students as well.
Yeah, student governments, as Kara put in the chat, I think that's a great first step to get student involvement. But also going beyond that, because often I'm in student government, I see that most of the kids that are in student government aren't really the students that this pillar is looking to support more and bring more resources to. So it's a tough question. I might have to delve on that a little bit more.
And I think I could chime in too here a little bit. I know we talked briefly at the last Pillar 4 Advisory Committee meeting that the AIB definitely wants to get student voice, and that we have an intern and then also our associate Graham Harding are both looking into this, and we do hope to tap into student government associations, as well as we're kind of thinking our blueprint coordinators could help us find the right groups in each district to be able to find students that would be interested in engaging in this. I think when I look at this question from the advisory committee stance, I'm kind of wondering, like, in the next 2.5 weeks, how will members of the advisory committee be able to dig into the draft that comes out and all of the information that comes out in this document today to be able to tap into the wealth of expertise and knowledge on the advisory committee to get feedback to the AIB based on what you're seeing as well? So I'm kind of thinking internally, in addition to some of the external. You guys have a fairly massive pillar, not that any of them are small. There's a lot of things to look at in here, and each of the members of the advisory committee bring a different lens. So how can we harness all of that? How can we get the ideas from the committee even back to the AIB?
I think it would be one of the things we've talked about is creating kind of a recommendations document. It might be that we want to kind of take sections and based off of our specializations and bring the lens to that through each of the advisory board members. And then we could also recruit people within our spheres to, add to that perspective so that we're collecting additional feedback within our areas of expertise, and then adding that to the recommendation document. That's definitely going to be a lot of homework for us. And that's why we are trying, we don't have this on the agenda because we were trying to have the dates already scheduled. We came up just a little bit short, but we should have them very shortly, the next 2 meetings. So we want to aggressively meet, before the 10th and after the 10th. To bring together some of that work. So that's just a thought. And we did think that having some kind of more narrative recommendations document, as well as specific feedback from the areas of the plan based on our expertise, I think would be a good way to start.
Yeah, I think that sounds fabulous. And then I love what you said about, each of you also have networks of people that may see it in another light that could expand upon that as well.
Do we have any other ideas, Kara, Jaden?
We were just joined by another advisory board member.
Yes, hi. I'm so sorry I'm late. I had to pick up my kids, but I am here now. My name is Dr. Eusebio. Thank you for pausing for just a moment.
Do you want to just give a quick a little background of yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm a school psychologist, working currently out of Prince George's County. I live in Montgomery County, and I was a former professor, also worked through UMD, or Maryland College Park, for several years as a professor there. I'm just really happy to be here. I don't know what else I should say to introduce myself. Is
That's
that
all
okay?
good.
All right, thank you. Sorry
like-
again.
Just to catch you up, we were discussing what the best way for us as an advisory committee to dive into getting feedback and providing recommendations around the plan, which is being released today.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. And so, Ms. Mitchell, I'm guessing that's where we are now is
That
getting,
is,
okay, great. Thank you.
Are there any other thoughts or recommendations related to a summary or a recommendation document that we would provide? And what should be included in such document, or what we should be sure to address in the document?
and we had discussed about maybe making our document more topically organized than rather than going line by line of the plan and we thought we might try to stay more topically, just because we have so much, as Rachel said, in our pillar. But I think we'll have to see once we try to organize it. If it gets too cumbersome in the narrative format, we may have to also do some connecting the dots between those narratives and like the 3.1.1s and all that 4.2.5, all of those things.
And I wonder, Ellie, how do you envision, like, if that were to maybe be started today or tomorrow or something, how do you envision the process in the next 2 weeks, for the committee? Would it be everybody jump in when you can, or certain ones at certain times? What might work for people?
Yeah, it's so hard not having seen the plan yet. I understand that the tables will remain very much the same as they have been, right?
The content really shouldn't surprise anybody. It's going to be just reorganized in different formats that makes it clear, like, who the key actors are, that really calls out the outcomes and all of that. Like, the pillar graphics you have now would give you enough of a starting point to know the big broad areas, the things that might be missing, from each of your lenses.
Yeah, I think, Chandra, I don't know. I think maybe if the two of us meet, we could figure out a way to break it down a little bit and then
Right.
ask folks to do some homework before our meeting, which will likely be that first week of November.
And that's not a problem. I don't have a problem. I'm thinking of things in a very, like, as you said, topical manner, in which there would be the topic and then the recommendations or the considerations underneath of it. And perhaps if we set up a format or a template for others to utilize, then we can have that done prior to the meeting and then to be able to discuss it or refine it at the meeting, so that we're actually being very productive on churning something out in a timely manner at this point. Does that sound reasonable?
Great. And actually, our next topic is the November 10th meeting. We know that there's going to be two parts to the day, right? There's going to be an actual AIB meeting, and then there's going to be a public hearing. No, Rachel is shaking her head no.
No meeting. The afternoon, like the 1 o'clock time frame, will likely be structured around organizations that have a role in the plan, having time to provide some feedback, as well as maybe LEAs, that we're going to be opening that up and figuring that part out. But then the afternoon, we're not sure on the timing yet, but maybe it's around 5 o'clock. That would be open to the public. Of course, there would be a sign up sheet for that ahead of time, and we will include information in our email blasts for that. The timing and all of that I wouldn't expect today in the email, but in the coming days, we'll be sending out information about signing up for the public hearing and the structures around it. But basically anybody is welcome to provide feedback, and as long as they sign up for it, or they could also submit it through, we're going to have a Google form, or people could email us at aib@maryland.gov. So we'll take feedback in any format possible. But that said, your feedback can come to the AIB through us directly, just because of your role as the advisory committee.
Right. So what I think that you're saying is that we already have this direct conduit being in the advisory role. So we really want to create the space and the time for folks from the public, parents, families, students, teachers, staff members, etc., who have things to say, to be part of that November 10th hearing. And so I'm just wondering if, again, from the perspective of the different roles that you play, how you might be thinking about getting more people involved in November 10th. I know that we will, my organization will put it out on all of our newsletters, all the information about how to sign up, all of that kind of stuff. I just think that we really want to have people understand that this is like a moment, a window in time to shape some of the implementation work. And I know that's not always the sexiest stuff to read, but this is, this is the first real big opportunity since the blueprint was passed, honestly, to be part of that discussion.
And I love how you said that, like it really is the goal of the AIB to be completely transparent and to be an open book, to be able to hear from everybody so that we don't miss things. That was part of the intent of the advisory committees, and why we have people from every corner of the state, that things are felt in different ways in different places. And so, yes, the more that you can spread the word, the better that it would be. And the more feedback we get, the better. It'll help us really make sure that the plan is thorough and thoughtful and comprehensive.
Any additional thoughts on November 10th? And
I just want to make a comment. I attended the previous hearing. I think it was October's hearing, maybe earlier this month. I don't have the exact date. I wonder if it'll be similar to that. There was quite a few people on that call, that Zoom call. I believe, Rachel, I remember seeing you there. What is I guess that's the next question. What's our role during that meeting? Or is it, maybe I'm jumping ahead or probably missing something, being late, but I
think that's a great question. Yeah, and we haven't talked about that.
Yeah.
Actually, we haven't had a public hearing quite like this. Like, we've had working sessions where people have registered to participate and they put things in the chat, and then sometimes they're invited off of the chat. That's the format that the working sessions ran from June until, I guess, through September. But this actually would be kind of similar if you've seen any other public hearings, like at the Board of Education, those kinds of things. There will be a time limit. A lot of times those are usually 3 minutes, but we're thinking that's probably not long enough. So we'll have that ironed out ahead of time, but potentially 5 minutes, that each person who has signed up will be able to speak for that time. They'll come off mute, they'll be able to speak, they don't have to put it in chat, that they can just share their thought, their consideration, their question, their idea. And basically the Zoom meeting would be the AIB members and staff. And then in terms of the role of the advisory committees, you do not have to speak at that. Like I mentioned before, you guys do have kind of the open communication with the AIB since you're on the advisory committees. But if you do have something that you feel needs to be stated in the public hearing, you're absolutely welcome to do that as well. And then the biggest thing we would love your help in is gathering more people to look at the documents, to look at the areas that they have expertise in or concerns about, and to raise that to make sure that we're aware of, local considerations, implementation considerations or challenges. The more we hear now, the more that we can revise to finalize the plan by December 1. So the more you can spread the word, that would be really fabulous. And I can't remember if you were on when we first talked about the afternoon part would be more the agencies. And so it could be the local school systems, it could be the community colleges or the 4 years or teacher prep programs or Department of Labor or the CTE committee, any of the agencies that are involved in implementing the blueprint. It's looking like that will be kind of the 1 o'clock afternoon block. Then there'll be a break and then come back, and it will be open to anyone who would want to provide feedback, but they will have to sign up ahead of time.
Great. I think we're looking forward to getting all those details so that we can start promoting them out. And Chandra and I will make sure all the committee members have everything they need in order to, and I'm sure Rachel will as well, to be able to share all that information broadly. So our last little bit before we kind of wrap up here and talk about next steps and kind of how this meeting has worked and what we can do better next time is that we did talk about this very briefly, the youth engagement piece, but I think that it deserves even more time because yes, I think we can, I think maybe we can brainstorm more groups, first of all, that, so we talked about the LEA groups, the LEA student government groups, but I think we can maybe add a few more ideas here. And then I also think about like, are there other methods? I'm just gonna throw out, maybe we need an AIB Pillar 4 TikTok. I don't know. I'm not sure how we do that, but maybe not. But maybe there is a sort of more social media, something different, something more youth-centered that we might consider doing.
Okay, I like the idea of the TikTok. I will not make them though because I've never made a TikTok.
I feel like people of all ages are obsessed with getting information from TikTok. So it might be something we think about, like a Pillar 4, like TikTok. I don't know. I'm up for other ideas. I'm thinking out of the box today.
I think it's great because you're right. That's where we reach them. That's where we find them. Terrifies me because I don't know how to do it yet, but I will learn and I can help support. But I think you're right. If we want to talk to students who are feeling the blueprint and who have direct information, we need to meet them where they're at.
Wholeheartedly agree myself. Even Instagram as well, Snapchat, TikTok. I think any kind of venue in which we can reach them even beyond, those students that, are maybe chosen for our panel, if that's something that we think would be a good idea, but just getting a really broad look at what we're doing and how it's working.
Yeah. And I think our chat suggestions are right, that maybe the young people do the TikToks, not us, not that is
no. So when older people do the TikToks, they get more views. I've noticed that, and people will actually listen. So just saying.
It might also be interesting that older people, when they do that, also lose careers. I'm kidding. It could be a career killer. I am not versed on that. I do see Instagram as being widely popular in the schools. I mean, they're always on it when they're not supposed to be on it. But yeah, I like it. What would be the message that would be said is, as Pillar 4, I guess. Maybe this would be the broader question. Or maybe our gentleman down there who spoke as the young person could be not a star, but maybe a masked villain or masked hero or something. You don't have to be, never mind. I don't want to throw anybody in that role. Schools, I think that's I mean, I'm logically from the schools. I don't know how to get that message across to school children, but I do see PG where I'm at. I think there's something like 66,000 kids. I don't know how interested they are as we are, but
I don't know if we want to think about doing some kind of surveying.
Mhm.
I don't know if we want to have any kind of tools that hold on a second, sorry. That would you know, yeah, that would allow us to collect data from students in that informed way.
there is some kind of policy and procedure that would have to go through. I think, in fact, that might take actually the entire year to get through in a bureaucracy like.
Oh, in terms of the IRB kind of thing, what you're
Yeah,
saying.
right.
You don't think we could just do an open survey on the AIB and promote it to students, and it could be done. It wouldn't have to collect a whole bunch of, if it didn't collect demographic data and all that kind of stuff. I'm just wondering if there's a way to do it without that sort of bureaucrat, like, yes,
Yeah.
if you like distribute a paper and pencil survey in a school and you have to have some kind of consent or opt-in or opt-out. But this would be more like, hey, young people, you're interested in giving us some feedback, go to this place.
Yeah, I see that as working, especially with like a URL code or something like that, where kids walk up to it, their smartphone, and somehow they're on a survey. I just, the school psychologist role is always on ancillary to the educators in many ways. I think I'd have to look into seeing how that could be done without having to hit any problems. I don't know.
Well, and I think that that's something that Rachel actually talked about as well, is that we have some folks that are on the AIB itself that have some expertise and some connections as well. So they might be able to help with the actual structure of these kinds of things.
Right.
So I think it's probably more the content that we would want to consider, and leave the delivery of such up to them. But certainly thinking about of how we want to get the content out, because even just looking at the plan itself and the implications of the plan, putting it in the language that students can understand and relate to, first of all, as well. So that's going to be important.
Yeah, I agree. The logistics might be the hard part, but I guess maybe that leads to my other question, to catch up with the rest of the group here and the speed of the group. The content of this message, I think, is to just express student concern, or maybe young people's concern throughout Maryland as to what's the whereabouts of our pillar. Am I getting that right, or am I off completely?
I mean, I think it depends, are there ways for us to take what's in the plan and make it digestible for everybody? And then get reaction from that. Because I think that's part of the challenge of these plans and these documents, is that they can be overwhelming. And that overwhelmingness can discourage people from digging in. So it's kind of like, what's the thing that it could be a general collection of pain points, but it's also important to tie it back to the pillar and what we're hoping to accomplish with the pillar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna have to really take some time to think about how to making what it would look like to make the plan digestible. And I don't think that just applies to young people either.
Yeah, right.
to be
I
honest.
wonder on this part, are you thinking youth engagement for the long haul or for the next 2 weeks?
Oh, I think we're thinking youth engagement for the long haul.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, I think,
Is-
I mean, I think the idea that we're gonna have a QR code with a survey in the next 2 weeks or a TikTok is pretty slim.
I was just
I
making
do-
sure.
What I do think we could do in the next 2 weeks is make sure that folks, the LEA student government folks and the youth development organization folks that we listed here know that there's a plan, know that there's a November 10th event, know that we're looking for feedback, and maybe actually get some feedback from them about how to best collect the feedback.
I think that's a great idea, Ellie, because like you said, the time is not on our side right now for the development of wonderful marketing strategies for feedback. But certainly it is something that I think needs to be ongoing and long term, because I think different feedback at different points is going to be important for us to craft what it is that we're hoping to make sure is included in the plan and addressed as well. So I don't see it as a one and done thing.
I'm happy to take the lead on the Boys and Girls Clubs, the WISE 4-H, that's all in my wheelhouse. I'm happy to take the lead on reaching out to some of those organizations. Jaden, I don't know if you could connect us to a sort of, I know that there's the local LEA student governments, but I know there's also like a Maryland state student government thing.
Yeah. Yep. I have some connections there. I can reach out.
That would be great. All right, so we have me on this and Jaden on that as a follow-up. So once that plan's out and we also have that November 10th information, we can share that directly with them and say we're trying to figure out how to get youth voice involved in this. How best do you think we can share this information with your folks?
So
Great.
sometimes it's hard for me to take off my former hats of teacher and principal. But I had an idea when you were talking about how to make it digestible for everybody. You know, the plan, there's a lot of words, there's a lot of terminology, there's a lot of pages. But have you ever been to a meeting or seen like maybe in a TED Talk when they bring a talented young artist, youth artist, to stand on the side and draw the picture and sketch what's happening? I wonder if we could do some kind of a challenge or a contest. I hate to say the word, but maybe where people could rewatch the videos from January. Or no, June, sorry, the June videos where they talked about the purpose of each pillar and the research and what came out in them, or if they could, they could interview people or read through information. I don't know what the best way to get the information to them would be. But then if you had youth artists create that visual, that could be kind of a neat way to process it.
That's very creative. I like that. And even beyond drawing it, doing a Cliff Note version of how they can take things away. And I don't even know if they use Cliff Notes anymore, but certainly getting that one pager, that summary of things that are important to know about the particular pillars. I think that's awesome.
That's great.
And Rachel, I've seen those things you're talking about very heavily in TED Talks, and those are super captivating. I think those draw a lot of attention. I guess the whole thing is, how do we get the artist or who would be that artist?
We have such a strong community here in Maryland with the arts and the connections in the schools. I know I was previously in Anne Arundel County, and they went to our arts integration schools and brought some of those students to one of our conferences, and they did that once. But I think I'm always amazed and so appreciative of how much Maryland has put an emphasis on the arts. But maybe there's some coordinators or people that we could reach out to if that's of interest.
I think it's fantastic. And I mean, I just received an email prior to jumping on. There was a bunch of things on STEAM. I think it was sent through Maryland. So the arts is definitely emphasized. I like
Absolutely.
it.
All right. Anybody have a connection for that we want to, as a follow-up item?
I was thinking, I'm wondering if we might connect through our local PTAs. They do something similar with the reflections contest that they have on a yearly basis. And I'm wondering if that's something that we can kind of piggyback on or shape a little bit. I don't have a connection directly with the PTAs, but I'm wondering if that's something that we could look to them for support or some guidance with that.
I do have a connection to the what was formerly Maryland PTA, now Free State PTA. So I will just see what I can learn from them about that. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left, 6 minutes. So just real quick, what do folks think worked well in this meeting? And what do we want to change in future meetings? And I will start us out by saying we need to meet for 90 minutes because we have a lot to do in these next 2 minutes. The next 2 meetings, and we're probably gonna have to do some work in between, but that's my suggestion.
I second that as well, Ellie. I think it worked really well with having the minutes and the agenda here, and we were able to capture what was being said and talked about in real time. I think that's beneficial. I would like maybe at our next meeting, we have the opportunity to really delve into the different aspects of our particular pillar and really start to frame up that recommendation sheet for the AIB itself. So really delving into each section and perhaps doing a breakout room of some sort where we can kind of tackle it equally amongst our particular committee.
Rachel, is there can we see comments on the live stream? Are there things that we should be? No, we can't. No comment
was turned off, I believe.
Got it. So is there a way for us to offer to the live stream the best way to communicate to the advisory group? Is there like a easy way for them to do that?
I would suggest emailing, and then our catch-all email is the AIB@maryland.gov. And then if something in the subject line would say like Pillar 4 Advisory Committee or something like that, or even the to line, we'll make sure that those get funneled to your pillar.
And we have comments turned off is there a particular reason we have comments turned off for the live stream?
I didn't set up any of the background on this, so I don't know that. I can talk to the team and see if that's intentional. I just noticed it on the YouTube side where it said comments are not available.
Because I always like to see what people are like, how people are reacting and thinking and what questions there may be a good reason why we I know that it's the world of live streaming and taking comments can be complicated and challenging. But as much as possible, I hope we have mechanisms to get people's reactions to stuff.
Sure. Let me take that back to the team and see and figure out the technology of it.
Anything else on the what worked well or what we want to improve for the future meetings? So we do have 2 doodle polls out for the next meeting dates. Unfortunately, they're not showing a great consensus, at least for the first meeting. The second meeting has a little bit better spread, although we're missing some people still. So I'm going to do one last nudge to make sure we have everybody in the doodle poll. That might clear things up just a little bit. And then we will, as soon as humanly possible, because we're kind of stretching to do that first meeting before the 10th and get that publicly listed. We want to get those up on the AIB website. So it's probably I can just say this, it'll be the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd of November, the first meeting. And then the next meeting will be either the I think the 29th or 30th or 28th or 29th that we set, we were picking between for the end of November. So we're trying to meet twice in November, once before November 10th and once after we've had a chance to kind of process more from that meeting. Chandra, you want to add anything to our closing, or do we want to kind of summarize any other next steps?
Well, I just want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for participating in the meeting and for joining our particular committee meeting here. Just to summarize some big pictures to tackle for next time. Of course, getting the meeting date and time is going to be important. Ellie just mentioned that, but also looking back at specific suggestions that we can present to the AIB prior to the November 10th meeting date, as well as the December 1st rollout. Those are our big pushes at this point. Really looking at getting some youth buy-in, but really marketing the AIB plan itself and making sure that people are involved in the rollout and the meetings that'll be occurring on the 10th of November. So those are some big important takeaways, knowing that the plan itself is going to be coming out for us today is exciting, and then delving into that as a committee looking at our particular pillar is going to be a lot of crunch time, but important work to be done within the next few days and weeks.
Okay. And yes, in that email, I'm going to also put it right here. It's aib@maryland.gov, right? So we want anybody who is watching us on the live stream today, particularly those who have ideas about youth voice, about visualizing the pillar, about making this more accessible to a larger audience. If you have thoughts about that for us, we want to hear them. And we encourage everybody to dive into that plan as soon as it's out there in the air. And it's going to take us all some time to slog through it, but slog through it we will, and come back together for the recommendations. And Chandra, I'll reach out to you and Rachel to figure out a time for us once again to set the agenda for the next meeting, and to maybe talk about setting up that template that we talked about for giving the committee members opportunities to kind of organize the feedback on the plan.
Thank you. Rachel, do you have anything further that you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate everybody's time. I think this was a great conversation. And so thank you for making time in this busy part of the world. And then we will get you that email hopefully as soon as possible that the plan is out. And appreciate your work to spread that word and to get more people to see it and give some feedback.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, my fellow committee members. This concludes our meeting today.
Thank you.
Thank you.